तुम गावहो मेरे निरपहो का सोहिला, हमारी जत सोहिला सदा सुख होए रहाओ।
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to lesson 3. So today we're going to go through lines 3 and 4. Your facilitator has already explained the basic meanings, so we're going to go through in a little more detail. The first thing I wanted to point out is the word rahal. This is something that I'm guessing a lot of you have already noticed, that in the vast majority of Shabads, there's a rahal line, right? And rahal literally means a pause or a break. And this is a word, again, like sangat, that is pretty popular among undergrads. Rahal, pause, and makes people feel good and reflect. And that's absolutely correct in that rahal does mean pause. But Rahal means something greater than that. The Rahal line or the Rahal stanza refers to the thesis statement of the Shabad. So basically, the entire Shabad, the meanings of that can be condensed to the Rahal line or stanza. So here, this is the Rahal line of the entire first Shabad of Sohila, right? Tum gavo mere nibho ka sohila, hum vari de sohile sada sukhoi rahao. Rahal again refers to the thesis statement here. So I just want you to be aware of that. I just want you to be cognizant of that fact. And just like we talked about before, Guru Sahib uses several different words to describe God here. Unlike in English, where we only have, God or Lord or Master, a few different words to describe God. In Sikhi, because Guru Sahib's immense love for God, for Akal Purukh Vaheguru, we use words to describe God as his name. For example, here we have Nirbhav. Nirbhav means fearless. So here we're referring to God, the fearless God, right? Before in the previous lines, it was Karte, the creator God. Sirjanharo, again, the creator God. So here we have Nirbhav, the fearless God. So again, showing Guru Sahib's immense love for God and his attributes, in that in every time he's referring to God himself, he's using a different word to describe him based on his actions. So again, just wanted to point that out to you. Similarly, we talked about Rag and Kirtan for a bit in the previous lessons. I want to emphasize that even further today, because if you look at the Rahal line, the most important stanza of the Shabad, Tum gavo, right? Gavo. Guru Sahib is asking us to sing, right? He could have said, I want you to read, or I want you to think about, or I want you to say. He specifically uses the word gavo. I want you to sing his praises, right? So again, just we talked about before, the importance of Rag, the importance of Kirtan cannot be understated one bit. In Sikhi, if one wants to reach Sachkhand, that permanent state of happiness, Kirtan is a necessary and required tool to get there. Try your best to learn Kirtan in Rag. If you can't learn Kirtan and Rag, at least develop a habit of listening to Kirtan and Rag. Listen to Kirtan the way the Gurus intended us to listen to it too. You notice that the vast majority of Barni has a Rag header, right? And that's done on purpose, because when Guru Sahib first revealed this Barni to us from God, it was sung before it was written down. It was sung in the Rag that it's listed at the header. Guru Nanak Dev Ji went through several udasis, traveling around the world, spreading the message of God. And he took only one person with him for these trips. He could have picked anyone to take with him, right? He could have taken a professor. He could have taken a scholar or a teacher or a professional speaker, Kathavachik. He could have taken really anyone with him on this trip. But he took Bhai Mardana Ji. And who was Bhai Mardana Ji? He was a musician. He played the rabab, which is a South Asian instrument. You might have seen one. It's pretty rare these days, unfortunately, but it's a beautiful sounding stringed instrument. He took Bhai Mardana Ji with him on his udasis, because whenever Guru Nanak would go and travel somewhere new, he would sing first and then speak, because music is something universal. It's something that can connect with people regardless of their language or their nationality or their religion. It's something truly human. And Rag really emphasizes human emotions even more. So Guru Nanak Sahib sings in certain rags, his audience, the Sangat listening, feels certain ways. So similarly, it's important that we continue to celebrate and we continue to sing Kirtan in Rag the way that Guru Sahib intended us to, the way he sang. So definitely, I understand I've said this several times, but I'm doing that on purpose because this is something extremely important to understand and to implement. One of the most important words in these lines here is the word sukh. For those of you that can read Gurmukhi, you'll notice that under the kakha, there's an onkar, which is a smiley face accent. Basically here, if there's an onkar underneath sukh here, it's referring to a singular sukh. Sukh means happiness. So that one permanent happiness, that's what this sukh is referring to. So sada sukh hoy, talking about, forever you're being at peace with this happiness, forever having this happiness. This is not a temporary happiness, but it's a permanent happiness. So Guru Sahib again is saying that, you know what, if you sing these praises, if you sing these soile, you will achieve this everlasting sukh, this everlasting happiness or peace. Let's for a second compare what exactly is this one happiness, right? So there's two types of happiness in this world. There's one called a temporary happiness, which is a happiness that we all go through on a daily, weekly, yearly basis, depending on our lives. For example, let's say you wake up in the morning, you go on your computer and you check your midterm score and you got an A. Right, there's a hard exam, you studied very hard for it, you're very happy, right? You did a good job. So for the next couple hours, you're elated. You're so happy. This good news has entered your life. But let's say 2 hours down the line, you check another score for a different class and you failed a midterm. You got a bad grade. Suddenly, your happiness completely dissipates. It disappears. And now this profound sadness, this anger has entered your mind. So that happiness was only temporary. But then let's say an hour later, you run into an old friend and you grab coffee with him, you catch up with him. Suddenly you're happy again, right? So you see, as humans, our happiness fluctuates. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're angry. We're never just constantly just at peace. We're never constantly happy. Or in Sikhi we say chardikala, right? Eternal optimism. We're never at that optimism throughout the day. We're always just fluctuating between happiness and sadness. So Guru Sahib says, that the whole purpose of life in Sikhi, the whole purpose of us being in this human form is to achieve that eternal happiness, to get out of this horrible, painful cycle of happy sometimes, sad other times, angry other times, depressed other times, again happy. We want to achieve that permanent happiness here, that permanent sukh. So Guru Sahib is emphasizing that is why you want that permanent happiness, right? People always ask, well, you know what? I need motivation for achieving something, right? Guru Sahib, I get, is asking me to sing God's praises. And he's saying if I do it and I have kirpa, I have blessings, then I will achieve this permanent happiness. But people have asked me, well, why do I want this permanent happiness? Well, that's something you can ask yourself and ask, you know what? Am I permanently happy, right? Am I throughout my day, am I always optimistic? Or do things affect me? Does a bad grade affect me? Does having a fight with my friend or my family affect me? Does anything on the news affect me? Does it ruin my mood? Does it make me unhappy? And the answer to that, I guarantee you, is probably yes. So getting this sukh rids you of all the stress and anxiety you have, the worries you have, right? From the smallest things to, what am I going to have for dinner versus the biggest things in your life? What about my career and my future? All of that stress, all that anxiety goes away when you achieve sukh, this one important sukh. When you achieve this one important happiness, nothing bothers you anymore. You're above all these issues. It doesn't mean you'll never face issues. You will always face issues. Guru Sahib, every guru faced issues, right? But because you have achieved this sukh, you're one with God, you know how to deal with these problems in a guru-centric way. In a way that doesn't stress you out, that doesn't bother you. One where you can basically deal with your problems in a healthy, productive manner. So that's why Guru Sahib is saying, try to achieve sukh. But most people these days, they don't try to achieve this permanent happiness. They chase temporary happiness. And where do we chase that? Where do we go to become happy? right? Most of us, if you're feeling down, you pick up the phone, or you're on campus, you meet with a friend, right? You talk to that friend. You have fun with them. You do whatever you want. You spend time with them. That lifts your spirits a bit, right? Or maybe you'll go hang out with your family, right? Or someone else who you're close to, your significant other. Other people may go to entertainment, to media. Let me go and watch my favorite episode of my favorite sitcom. Or let me go see that new movie. Let me go read a book I really want to read. Or let me go listen to a song I really like. That'll make me happy. And I don't doubt that temporarily, for a few minutes, a few hours, whatever, you may actually be happy. But it's all temporary happiness, right? We all look for happiness in these very temporary places, these temporary people and locations. Guru Sahib says that, rather than relying on others for your happiness, find your happiness inside yourself through connecting with God. Because God is in you, right? Mantu Jot Sarup hai, apna mool pachan, right? So God is within you. So Guru Sahib is saying, instead of relying on other people for your happiness, your friends and your family and media, that at some point may disappoint you and cause you harm, look to God Himself for your happiness. Sing His praises, sing His sohile, as Guru Nanak is saying here. Don't rely on others. Or worse yet, you turn to substances, right? People relying on alcohol and drugs for their happiness. Guru Sahib is saying, you don't need any of that. You don't need those substances. You don't need other people for your happiness. You have God there to get rid of all of these stresses, all these anxieties, loneliness, low self-esteem, depression. That He is there to take care of all these issues. You don't need to go to other people to find happiness. That happiness is already there around you. It's inside of you through God. It's just finding it, right? Through singing God's praises, through singing His soile, can you discover that, according to this line. So sukh is achieved only when you place full reliance and hope on Guru Sahib and not on other people. It's great to have friends and be close to your family, of course. But at the end of the day, Guru Sahib is saying very clearly that, if you want that sukh, it has to be from reliance on Akal Purkh Waheguru and no one or nothing else. Permanent happiness, permanent enlightenment only can come from Him. It cannot come from any person, any organization, any object in this world. It only comes from one source. So that's the whole point of life, according to Sikhi, is to experience Naam, to experience that one permanent happiness, that sukh that Guru Sahib has talked about here in this line. I hope you enjoy the next activity. It should be pretty interesting for you guys, and I will see you next week. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.